Just before this episode, here's how you can get more from Never a Truer Word. If you're listening to this podcast on Spotify, you can subscribe to this channel to get early access to the weekly analysis episodes, video episodes so you can see the statements as I analyse them, and exclusive content too. And if you're here on YouTube, then become a member of the channel to get early access to everything and exclusive content not available anywhere else. Hello and welcome to Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And we're here with Luigi Mangione, the most requested analysis I've had recently in the comments. People wanting me to take a look at his manifesto. If you've been around this channel before, you'll know this is great for me. It's a huge statement, but does it reveal anything about what was going on with the guy? If you're new here, you're going to get a unique take on the Luigi Mangione story and the whole United Healthcare Brian Thompson assassination story, as well as we dig into the manifesto word by word to see what is going on there. Can we understand why he did what he did, allegedly? Or actually, is there something more being said here? Why did he do it and what is going on? That's what we're going to look at here. We're going to look at the manifesto. First thing I'm going to do is look at who is the audience for the manifesto. So who is it that Luigi wants to hit with these words here? It's not always the people that it's written to, dear such and such. It could be something more at play there. What are his priorities? What are the things that he wants to get across in this manifesto? And is there any hidden information, things he's trying to skip over, things he's trying to hide, or any of his intentions being revealed by the words that he's chosen to use in this manifesto? But a warning for you. I don't know if he wrote this or not. He's only been charged now. We don't know if he actually did the assassination. We don't know if he wrote this manifesto. We don't know if someone wrote it for him. It could even have been planted on him. So I've got all those warnings going on. Listen, I'm going to assume that he wrote it and get what I can from looking at it from that point of view. But I'm open to the point of view that this could have come from absolutely anywhere. So let's have a look at the words in Luigi Mangione's manifesto. And it starts, to the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. Now, I said I was interested in the audience, and he starts with to the feds. So he's telling us who it is he's addressing. Now, that is only what he's telling us, or who he's telling us he's addressing. I'm sure we've all got those emails where we've been CC'd in, and actually we think, or someone else has been CC'd in, and we think they're the prime audience for this. It's the person that's been copied in that really the person who sent this email wants to read, and that might be what's going on here. But he does say, and he says, I'm addressing the feds here. And he says, I do respect you and what you do for our country. Well, does he respect them a lot? Because he's addressed it to the feds. Nothing very formal, not showing any respect by giving them their full title or an honorary title or anything like that. It's that kind of slangy, casual, to the feds. But anyway, to the feds, I do respect you. And it's not just I respect you, or it's not just I respect what you do for our country. It's I do respect what you do for the country. Almost as if that respect would be unexpected, and he's wanting to persuade and convince and show that he does, I do respect what you do for the country. And he talks there about I do respect what you do for our country. Kind of qualified though. It's not just I love you, I think you're great in total, I admire everything that you do. It's very qualified. It's I respect what you do, just respect, and for our country. So it's very limited. It's not I respect everything about you, or I love everything about you, or I believe everything that you stand for. It's just I do respect what you do for our country. And in this manifesto, the first thing he wants to do is get the feds on side. Look at what he's saying. What a nice guy I am to you feds. I'll keep this short. I do respect what you do for our country. And I'm going to tell you something to save you some work, to save you a lengthy investigation. So, in all of that opening part that we've got here, he's trying to get the feds on side. To the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. What a great guy I am. I am on your side. He really wants to open up with some warmth towards the feds. He wants to get them to buy in and think, I'm doing things to make your life easy. Interestingly for me, he doesn't say, To save you a lengthy investigation, I wasn't working with anyone. He says, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. So again, this is me doing you a favour, and I'm pointing out how plain that I'm stating this. I wasn't working with anyone. He says, I wasn't working with anyone, wasn't past tense. So this suggests to me that this manifesto was written after the assassination. I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. It's not I state plainly I'm not working with anyone, or I won't be working with anyone in the future. It's I wasn't working with anyone. So that's the very opening of the manifesto. It's the priority. It's the thing that most important for him to get across there. And what is it? It's addressing the feds. It's getting them on side. But I also see in that there's no confession. He doesn't come out straight away by saying, I did this. I'm the guy that assassinated the United Healthcare CEO. And there's that sort of misdirection thing going on there of, look, what a nice guy I am. Also, Luigi, I believe, quite an intelligent person. So he says, I state plainly I wasn't working with anyone. What is the intention of that? Is it just to look like a nice guy? Or is it to do this, I wasn't working with anyone, so don't bother following that up, because what are the feds going to do? Are they going to go, oh, he says in his manifesto he wasn't working with anyone, so let's not go and see if he was working with anyone. Let's believe him at face value here. Of course they're not going to do that. So what's going on there? I think what that might be is him trying to get the feds on side. They will find out when they do investigate that he wasn't working with anyone, and he can say, I told you, you wasted all your time trying to find out if I was working with someone. If you just believed me, you would have had a much shorter investigation if you just believed the words I said. I was giving you the truth here. I think that's what is important to him there. The manifesto carries on. This was fairly trivial. Some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. The spiral notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. In this second paragraph of the manifesto, I get big ego energy from Luigi here. He's telling us that this huge thing that he did, this groundbreaking thing that's led all the news stories, he found was fairly trivial. Yeah, no big shakes to me. It was just fairly trivial to do this. All he needed was some elementary social engineering. It wasn't just social engineering, it was elementary social engineering. By the way, social engineering, probably quite hard. It might as well have said elementary quantum physics there. Some basic CAD. CAD is that computer-aided design. He doesn't expand on what it means, so therefore I'm not going to look into it. I'm going to read the words as are there, but it was basic CAD. He didn't have to go over and above there. This was very easy for me. It was elementary social engineering, basic CAD, and a lot of patience. Hey, look at me. What a great guy I am. I have something that not many people do. I have a lot of patience. And then he says his tech is worked down because I work in engineering. Again, a bit of status there. I'm so important, my tech has to be locked down. So a lot of ego coming through there in the words of Luigi. He says this was fairly trivial. Was is past tense. This was fairly trivial. So another indicator there that this manifesto was written after the assassination. And he calls it this, yeah? So it's quite a big thing. It's the assassination, it's the killing, it's the shooting of a man in a street in New York. But he downplays it all to just this. In fact, he never talks about the violence of it at all in this entire manifesto. He just boils it down to this downplaying thing, this. Quite often see that from guilty people when they're accused of a murder and they're asked, did you murder that person? They'll turn the severity of what it is that they're being accused down when they reply, and they'll say, I didn't do that. That's kind of what is coming across here. This was fairly trivial. He talks about the to-do lists and the notes will illuminate the gist of it. Illuminate, shine some light on. But you still got to look at it and understand what it is. And gist isn't the full thing. It's just the general impression. It's kind of the top line about what was happening. That's what a gist is. There, he's not saying that these notes are going to tell you everything. I'm not going to reveal everything to you. Just when you look at it, you'll get some illumination on it and you will get the gist of it. So he's saying there, you look there, you're not going to get everything. He's holding stuff back there. When he talks about his tech, he says, my tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. So my tech is pretty locked down, so that means pretty locked down. It doesn't mean totally locked down. And probably not much info there. Again, he knows how much info is on his tech, obviously. So what I'm saying there is info on his tech, and he wants people to go and look at it because, again, it's that thing of it's not misdirection. He wants people to go and look at his tech. He's smart enough to know that the feds aren't going to get this and go, oh, we will go and look at his mobiles and his computers because they're pretty locked down. He's told us here there's probably not much information here. I think this, again, is that sort of misdirection or direction thing where he's saying, go and have a look and you'll see there isn't much information there. And once more, you can go, hey, this guy was being honest in his manifesto. Actually, he's one of the good guys. We can trust what it is that he has to say. Just look at the order that he mentioned what he did there. He talks about some elementary social engineering first, some basic CAD, and a lot of patience. So social engineering first, CAD, and then patience. The first thing we mention is often the thing that is most important to us, the thing that's the priority in our head, maybe the thing that we are proudest of achieving there. In this list, it is social engineering. Keep that one in mind because that is going to become important as we go through the rest of the manifesto. It continues, I do apologise for any strife of traumas, but it had to be done. Now, this is one of those weak apologies. We see this a lot in show business and political circles when someone says, I apologise for any offence caused, not an outright blanket, I'm sorry for what I did. It's that qualified apology. I apologise for any strife of traumas. He's not apologising in total. He's just apologising for a very small bit of it. And it's for any strife of traumas. Is that a typo? I think it might be strife or traumas there. Notice it's strife singular, so I apologise for any strife or traumas. Traumas is plural. What are those multiple traumas that he's thinking of? There's obviously one trauma that we can all think of, which is the death of a person. That is a trauma. What are the other traumas? Is it the effect that it's had on other people? Is it maybe something more personal, the effect that it's had on him or on his family? But certainly traumas, plural, interests me. What other traumas is he referring to there? And then he says, but it had to be done. So we've got this downplaying again. It's not an assassination had to be done, a killing had to be done. It's no, but it had to be done. He doesn't say what it is. And then we have the it had to be done, which is convincing. It is him saying it had to be done, not but I thought it was a good thing to do, or on balance, I thought it was better to do it than not do it. It's very convincing. It's very solid. It had to be done. He continues, frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. Now, that could have been stated as these parasites had it coming. That would be very direct. That would be quite brutal, actually. These parasites had it coming. But instead, he works hard to persuade us that this is what he means by adding frankly and simply in there. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. He's working hard to persuade us that this is the truth. Makes me think he doesn't really believe it or doesn't think that we'll believe it. So he's using his words to try and persuade us, using words like frankly and simply to try and convince us and persuade us that he really means this and that it really is how the world is. And he talks about parasites, plural, again. Who are the parasites? Obviously, there is a parasite in his view, which is the person that he shot. But who are the parasites? Is the more than one person that he's talking about? And the parasites simply had it coming. So we've got past tense again there. So another indicator. That's 3 now. Quite reliable to say that this was written after the assassinations. It's not a manifesto about why he was going to do this. It's not what he felt before he did this. It's what he is writing after he did this and had it coming again. So we've got that downplaying again. He's not taking the full breadth of what it was that he did and talking about that at all. He's downplaying it merely to it. The manifesto continues with a reminder. The US has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly number 42 in life expectancy. United is and then there's something indecipherable there, but fourth would be the most logical word there. So United is the 4th largest company in the US by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, Walmart. It has grown and grown, but as our life expectancy, So he starts off with a reminder here. Again, a sense of ego, but also a sense of convincing us. So, number one, I'm the guy that has to remind you of this. Are you stupid? Have you not been paying attention? Do you not know this? It's a reminder, so you should know this. You should have heard this before. But I'm the guy that has to give you this reminder. So a little bit of convincing us that, it's a reminder. So you've heard this before. So what I'm about to say must be true because I'm telling you you've heard it before. But also, I'm the guy that's delivering the reminder here. And he talks about life expectancy, the US ranking 42nd for life expectancy, and as the companies have grown, has life expectancy grown. Now, what is life expectancy? That's the age that people are expected to live to. It's a scandal if that is lower than it should be. Why? Because of quite serious things. People dying early, loved ones not living as long as they should, people not getting a fair chance at healthcare and dying early because of it. But he doesn't use any of those emotional or real life examples to talk about this whatsoever. In fact, he's just statistical about this. He's not emotional about it at all. The way he talks about life expectancy, it's like an academic paper. Where the US are in the charts of life expectancy and has life expectancy grown. It's very statistical. It really is not emotional and also very vague. Because this thing that is supposedly driving what he did, he doesn't have the stats nailed down. He says we rank roughly number 42 in life expectancy. So he doesn't know exactly where it is. It's just roughly number 42. And then he says the companies, they have grown and grown, but has our life expectancy? So it's a question there. He doesn't know the answer, because if he could say these companies have grown and grown and grown, but life expectancy hasn't, or life expectancy has got lower, that would be a much stronger point to make. And he would make that. But why hasn't he made that? Why has he just stated it as a question? Because he has a lot of uncertainty about those facts around life expectancy. In comparison to that, though, he seems to be a lot more certain about the stats around the healthcare system. So the US has the number one most expensive healthcare system in the world. It's not roughly like the life expectancy one is. It's just it's a factual. The US has the number one most expensive healthcare system in the world. And again, factual. The United is the fourth largest company in the US by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, and Walmart. He has certainty around those stats around the healthcare system, but a lot of uncertainty on the stats around life expectancy. Now, he had these stats there and he was very certain of those market cap ones and the size of healthcare ones. So I decided just to do a bit of a fact check on it to see if his certainty was indeed something that he should have. So I did a quick Google of the top US companies by market cap. And what came up in Google in the first ranked results kind of surprised me, because when I had a look at this one and looked for United Healthcare, certainly nowhere in the top 4, nowhere in the top 10 even. It was way down the list somewhere that United Healthcare came up on that list. Listen, Google is fallible. There's different ways of looking at things sometimes, so I just checked the next result down as well for the biggest companies in the US by market cap, and I found United Healthcare all the way down in 18th on that list. So his talking about it being the fourth largest one just didn't make a lot of sense to me. I wondered where he got that stat from. So what I did was I did a quick Google for United Healthcare being the fourth largest company, and what I found there was really interesting, because there were no big articles saying United Healthcare is the fourth largest company by market cap. As you can see, really there's all sorts of results, but there was one very interesting one from The Guardian in an article published the day after the CEO was murdered of United Healthcare, and right in the middle of that article is a stat. United Healthcare Group is the fourth largest public company in the US behind Walmart, Amazon, and Apple. Almost the exact same stat that Luigi put in his manifesto, apart from the fact he had Google and not Amazon. Has he been Googling himself? Did he read that article afterwards and go, oh, there's my reason for doing it, or there's a stat I'll put in my manifesto to show why I did it? Interesting thought. Let's continue with the manifesto. He says, no, the reality is these indecipherable have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. So he's starting off another paragraph by convincing us. He's telling us what the reality is. He's a guy that's in a position of power and knowledge to tell us what the reality is, or is he trying to convince us? Because this is the reality. If you question this, you're questioning reality. It's wording that's used to persuade us. He's not just giving us the facts. He's not just giving the stats. He's not giving us his feelings. He's telling us it is reality. It seems to be there because the reality is these, so it's not just this United Healthcare, but it's these have simply gotten too powerful. They continue to abuse our country for immense profit. The American public has allowed them to get away with it. So this is about more than one company. I think his issue that he's stating there is with the system, not with United Healthcare. He talks about these companies, they continue to abuse our country. Similar there to when he was talking about the feds and the great things that they do for our country. What is going on there with his repeated use of our country? Is Luigi patriotic and standing up for the country? Or is that what he wants us to think? I'm not just doing this for me. I'm not just doing this for some personal reasons. I've got the country. I've got the country in my heart. I'm thinking about the country. I'm doing this. What I did for you. Everyone that's in the country, I did this for you. Or is he patriotic? Because he does say the American public has allowed them to get away with it. So it's the American public's fault. I mean, who is at fault here? Is it the powerful healthcare companies, which is what he wants to say one turn, but then the next turn he wants to say it's the Americans' public's fault because they have allowed them to get away with it. And that word allowed stands out for me there because there's a theme of gullibility here. The American public, too dumb to notice what is happening, too dumb to push back, too dumb to try and get any other solution. There's a theme of gullibility, which I think is going to be very important when we come to the conclusions on this manifesto. The manifesto continues, obviously the problem is more complex, but I do not have space and frankly I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. So it starts with obviously, another one of those convincing words. Obviously this is what's happening. If you question this, it's obvious, you're stupid. I'm telling you, this is obvious. There's that arrogance there in the wording, but also I think he is trying to persuade us that this is the truth, convince us that this is the truth. He says the problem is more complex, but I do not have the space. Yeah, we're on the run for a few days. You had a lot of space to do this. If you wanted to do it, if you had authentic things driving you to carry out the assassination, you did have the space to write out why they were there. So that I do not buy into at all. And then as the guy who has done something quite large because of all the problems he has with the healthcare system, he says, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. You what? You've done something really, really bad, potentially, or you're saying here you've done something, and you do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. Compare that to when he was talking about what he did. Very free and easy there. It was fairly trivial. Some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. Compare that and contrast that to, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. Much more certain about how good he was at carrying this out, much less certain about the reasons that he is stating in his manifesto for why this happened. It continues, but many have illuminated the corruption and greed, e.g. Rosenthal and Moore, decades ago, and these problems simply remain. Got repetition of illuminated there. He likes to shine a light on things. He likes this metaphor that he uses that lights are being shined on things. But he says all of this happened, he allegedly killed someone because of it. There's greed. There is corruption. People are dying early because of all this. And he sums it up with the word problems. Just problems there. Strange, small, trivial word to describe something that drove him to take such big action. The manifesto finishes with, it is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I am the first to face it with such brutal honesty. Again, we've got this persuasive, convincing language. It's clearly power games at play. Yeah, clearly power games at play. Again, if you don't see it clearly, if you don't see those things happening, you're a bit stupid because it's clear and you're not seeing it. And evidently, I'm the first to face it with such brutal honesty. We've got the ego coming through again because he says, I am the first to face it with brutal honesty. Go you. Even though he's mentioned that other people have talked about it before, he's the first to face it with such brutal honesty. And that phrase, brutal honesty, well, is there much brutal honesty in this manifesto? What is he talking about with brutal honesty? There was no honesty. He's downplayed what he did to this. He's not very clear with brutal honesty about why he did it, the stats that drove him, or anything like that at all. There's very little evidence in his manifesto of brutal honesty. He did something brutal if he did do the assassination, but the honesty, nah, that's not there at all. So that's the manifesto. What I do like to look at when I've done that is what is missing that we would expect to see. No anger. No anger at all. So he did a violent act. Violent acts quite often come out of anger, but no anger there expressed at all by Luigi in this manifesto. No emotion either, just nothing at all. It's very statistical, it's very male, frankly, very statistical, very logical there, but no emotion in what he was describing at all. No hope for the future, so it's not like he did this to scare other companies into behaving differently at all. It's just regret for the past, but no hope for the future, no hope that his actions will make life better for Americans at all. There was lots of speculation that potentially someone in his family was denied healthcare or health cover, which led to a premature death or severe illness, which might be something that was driving him to do this. Mentioned also back pain, and he had an operation for back pain, and that might be something that was driving him to do what he did. But there's no mention of that there at all. There's no personal reason given. Back pain doesn't come up. Nothing that even remotely suggests that back pain was a reason for doing it. So there is the manifesto. What are the conclusions? Well, I'm going to start off by saying that a big part of it is persuasion and convincing. Words like simply, obviously, evidently, frankly, clearly, all sent to persuade us and convince us that he means what he says, that this is the truth that is going on. Why do people do that? Well, often one of the reasons people do it is they don't believe it. They don't think their words are strong enough because they're not true. That for the words are strong enough for people to believe, for it to sink in and for it to be taken at face value. So they add in these persuasive and convincing words like simply, obviously, evidently, and frankly. So that is what I think is going on there with the persuasion and convincing. His reasons for doing this, they're really weak. We've got dodgy and vague stats in there. He's not researched it and lived with this thoroughly. And there's no emotion at all. There's nothing emotional that was driving him to do such a violent act. See big ego in there, though. He talked about how trivial this whole thing was. Huge news story, made shockwaves around the world. Kind of trivial for Luigi to do. He talked about being the first one to do it as well. And he talked about things like a reminder. I'm the one that needs to remind you of things like this. The big theme that came through for me was gullibility. That misdirection at the beginning of, hey, FBI, I'm on your side. I'm a really nice guy. I want you to have a short investigation. Don't go bother looking there. Don't go bother looking there. I'm on your side. All of that there, you guys are gullible and you guys are going to fall for this. He talked about the public allowing the things to happen. The public allowed the healthcare system to be that way. They're too stupid. They can't push back. They just allowed it. They're too weak there. And also remember the thing he was most proud of in carrying out this attack was this social engineering, which preys on gullibility or vulnerability of how people act. So what's my conclusion on this whole thing? This is all misdirection and misinformation. I don't think he means any of it at all. I think the intended audience is the investigators and the world at large, and he does not want to tell the truth at all in this manifesto. It is misdirection and misinformation. Go and look over there, because the real truth is hidden somewhere over there, and it will be illuminated one day. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments if you can, or get in touch on social media. You will find all the links in the show notes. Be really interested in what you think about Luigi Mangione's manifesto. Neveratruerword.com is a website. There you will find a whole load more videos analysing the words of people in the news. Lots of podcasts as well, and you can sign up for the newsletter too if you want to keep in touch with Never a Truer Word. It's neveratruerword.com, and we'll see you soon for something new from Never a Truer Word.